Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 196. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is...
James Seelig.
It's been 2 weeks, I guess, since our last show.
Yeah, we kind of missed the last one.
Yeah, it was just going to be a leftovers one, but we ended up just not doing it. Uh, we're here this week, though, to talk Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which just came out this past weekend. It is also 4th of July. Happy 4th.
Yep.
Uh, Freedom
Special
time.
holiday episode.
Yeah, really. We're just doing it quick before we go and do our respective stuff. We're just trying to get it out of the way quickly. This is Sutro Side Talk. We talk what we watch and play. Uh, just real fast, James, how are you doing? How's it going with you?
Doing okay. Just really tired because one, I've been really bad with my gym schedule for like what feels like the entire year. Like I don't think I've gone. I used to go every day after work, so like at least 4 or 5 times a week, and I've just been like maybe 2 or 3 times, which is like still better than like a lot of people, but anyway,
Above average for sure.
yeah, I'm like trying to get back into my schedule. I went 3 times this last week, and I'm just like tired. Also, I already told you I added another game to my list of games I'm playing. I'm playing Diablo 4. They got me, and that game is ruining my sleep schedule. So I'm like expending more energy, not getting enough sleep, and then like I don't know if I mentioned on the show that I put my car into the shop like a few weeks ago, a little while, like at this point, to get a tiny dent fixed that was caused when I was having my windshield replaced, and they just keep pushing back like when they think it'll be done because I bought a Tesla. I was an idiot that bought a Tesla, and I thought, oh, at this point their production line is probably fine. Shouldn't be that hard to find parts or whatever. No, apparently the shop has been literally stuck on waiting for parts for like 2.5 to 3 weeks at this point. So I'm fine. Could be better.
Yeah, I feel like since March, I've nonstop been having to go to doctors, hospitals on one side, and then stuff for cars on the other. Whether it's
Yeah.
my car helping out with folks getting their cars taken care of too, and stuff like that. But I'm like still nonstop having to go. I had to go back to the doctor again because I've had that cough that I've talked about on the show that I've had to do on this show for over 6 weeks now, and I got an inhaler, and I might have two inhalers for like a week or and a half or something, depending on how the first one pans out. But I've had to go back for that. And then for my car, I just got it like the wiper fluid tube replaced, and I had tire pressure thing popping up. So I said if I can get that looked at. It stopped, it disappeared like 2 weeks after. Uh A1 service due soon. So now it needs to be serviced
No.
like regular, and tire pressure is back. And I'm like, okay. Plus, from when I got the windshield replaced, when like the whole carpet was wet, I've still been like trying to get the dude to help me out, who said he'd like clean it. And so hopefully tomorrow I can take it in. So it's just like both of these things, whether it's doctor or car, nonstop, keep having to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm just like, please, I just want this to be over. Please. I'm so done. I'm so done with
Let
all
me
of this.
rest.
Yeah.
I just need one day.
Yeah. But we're here to talk Indiana Jones today. And of course, I'll just say a few things real fast. We're pretty much toning down on social media in general for the show. Not that it really mattered in the beginning anyway, because I look at Instagram stuff and the amount of work I put in versus the amount of like, I guess like visualization with that. If you don't do like the boost crap, if you're not paying Instagram to like
Yeah.
advertise, it's kind of also a waste of time anyway. I don't think anyone really cares through Instagram. The show doesn't really get affected by what I
Yeah.
post
I
on
don't know if I've
Instagram.
ever seen an ad for a podcast on Instagram and been like, oh, yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so toning it down for now anyway. I might boost it up later on depending on when the show changes, but I'll just say like the show itself, I can't say too much yet, but like there'll be big changes later on, or there should be, if everything goes correctly. But for now, the show isn't the priority at the moment. So there's other things that need to be done first, and then once those things are done, potentially it should actually help the show out in the long run. So for now, like there might be times where we do miss a week here and there. Just a heads up for that. Just because, like I said, it's not the big focus, but we'll still be doing stuff here with more of the recent stuff, I think, because of that too. being more focused, we might not be able to cover everything that we do and packing in like three things into one episode, but we'll see how that goes. Which is why, like today, we're just doing a shorter one movie, that's it, kind of thing. But with that said, let's dive right into it. James, we saw Dial of Destiny what on Saturday, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday
Yeah.
afternoon.
He
Took
texted me like Friday night and I was like, oh wait, what movie did I agree to see?
you literally
What just
you
came out?
literally said which movie are we watching? And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's right. Barbenheimer is not out yet, dude. We can't go
Dude,
see.
everything I see about the Barbie movie just makes me want to see it more and more. I don't know why.
For those that don't know, Oppenheimer and Barbie are coming out at the same time. Watch Oppenheimer first, and then watch Barbie movie. Barbie movie if you're doing a double feature that the day of, because the whole thing is apparently Oppenheimer is gonna make you depressed and all the shit. You're just like destroyed, and Barbie is gonna kind of like restart your heart and get you back to normal. So that's the doctor's orders in terms of just watching order. If you're only going to watch one, whichever one looks more appealing to you personally. If I had to choose one,
Yeah.
I'd choose Barbie just because Nolan hasn't been
It
as great recently with his
yeah.
movies. So,
Like I'm interested in the Oppenheimer movie, but yeah, that seems like a real like downer movie and Barbie just looks so fun.
oh boy, nuclear weapons. Yeah. Also, 4th of July, I got my Assassin's Creed 3 shirt.
Nice. I'm just
Yeah.
wearing my Nintendo 3DS shirt.
Well done. You're just a walking. I'm a walking freedom advertisement. You're just walking Nintendo advertisement. It doesn't
I'm
even have
literally
anything
like
cool.
one of those people just like, whatever. What shirt do I pick out of the pile? Uh,
Smells fine. All right.
you're not wrong.
God. All right, Indiana Jones. So this is the fifth and final Indiana Jones movie.
Hopefully.
It is. It is for
Yeah.
sure. The way I look at it, guys, I'm just going to start off with this. And of course, spoilers. As you know, we just do that for everything at this point. Harrison Ford's old. He's really old now.
Yeah.
What's crazy was, we all were like, dang, he's old when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. And he was still able to do stuff, but you could tell, like, compared to the first, the trilogy of
Yeah.
movies, he was moving slower. It
They had like
wasn't,
literally several more decades on him.
yeah, it's like he couldn't do as much, but you can kind of tell also, like, he's a little wrinkly, his face is graying a bit, like everything's graying up. And he can do as much of the cool stuff as he used to. But they still were able to get a lot of action in there. And then for Dial of Destiny, you're like, damn, that was like what, 2007, 2008 or something like that. This is 2023. That's how many years later this is coming out? Like that is almost like that's straight up like 15 years actually. I think yeah,
Yeah.
it's 15 years later.
I was
So
surprised. Like most of this movie was like action scenes or chase scenes.
yeah, not as much, mind you.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
'cause,
Indy was throwing way fewer punches. He threw a few. They did
yeah,
the bam sound effect or whatever
it was minimal but effective when he would.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Except for a big German or a big
Yeah,
white.
there's always one big dude.
Yeah, one big dude that's just like, fuck, god damn it. There really is one big dude in like each movie,
Yo, that
really.
kid murdered him.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Uh,
Underwater, God. But this one he's moving a lot slower, much, 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 much slower. He can't do as much. The beginning is a full prologue of like young Indiana Jones, or like trilogy era Indiana Jones. It takes place after Last Crusade because it's the end of the war. And he's moving around on trains doing all this punching, but the thing is it's not him. There's a guy with a Harrison Ford mask
yeah.
that they basically did the full like visual effects over to make it look like a young Harrison Ford. And before we get into that whole thing, I just wanted to talk about like his age and everything else, but
Well,
like
that whole CG thing is why I'm like, maybe they could do more because I could see a future where Disney's like, hey, we already got the young Indy face mask. We got like a shit ton of Harrison Ford talking. Let's throw that into an AI learning machine or yeah, shit, whatever you call it, and just like have it do an Indiana Jones movie with someone else acting out all the scenes, and just have AI
I guess we're talking
replace
about it now.
yeah the face and even the voice. You can make him look and sound like old Indiana Jones. So you don't have to recast. You just have CG the whole movie.
Yeah.
I
So
could
I
see
hope they
that.
never do that. I don't want them to
Yeah,
do
that's why I
that.
was like, hopefully this
Yeah.
is the last one with Indiana Jones.
Before we talk more about the visual effects, the whole thing, yeah, is this movie is, of course, the least actiony, the least like movement out of the five movies for sure. It's him at the end of all of this. It's just kind of like we got it done. We got you. The last movie, we're barely able to get it done.
Yeah, we got one last one out there.
Yeah, it's like I had one more in me, and then that was like
Squeeze a
this was it.
little more out of that lemon or whatever, orange, something sweet.
Um, God, the fuck.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm tired.
it's over, and I think that it's good that it's over. At the same time, like the thing was, I wanted this. I wanted this the whole time. I wanted this movie. I wanted to have a finish, even though the last one was a good finish. The minute they said like we have one more, well, I'm like, now you have to do it. You can't not do it. You have to get it done. I know he's old. Get, just put this last one in there, and we'll see how it goes. And even with all the age and everything else, it was still a fun time, I think. And it wasn't a
Yeah.
great time, but it was a fun time.
No, I've been telling people at work, like, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, I walked out of Crystal Skull initially just like mad at how much I didn't like that movie because I was like, I loved all the other three movies. How could you add this terrible thing at the end of the series? And it's weird that I kind of softened on it over the years. Like I'm actually okay on Crystal Skull now. Like there's still a few things that I'm just like that I'll never be able to like get past. Like, but whatever. But for Dial of Destiny, like I went into it expecting it to be utter trash, and I walked out going like, that was actually fun. I liked it. It was not bad.
And the way I describe it is there's three tiers of indie movies. There's the high tier, which is Raiders and Last Crusade. You have your middle tier, which is Temple of Doom, just because compared to those two, it's not as good. It's still fun. And it's also still a young Harrison Ford. And then at the bottom, like in the lower tier, you have like old indie, which is Kingdom and Dial. And from what I've seen online, like no one's comparing this to the older movies. No one at all. Like I haven't seen one thing of like, yeah, where does it rank between these? It's like everyone knows those three movies are on the top, and these two are pretty much
Yeah.
vying for fourth place for the most part.
There was
And
almost no chance it was going to be as good as the original movies.
the interesting thing is there have been actual like not debates, but people kind of their opinions being like, "Oh, I like this one more than four," or others going, "I like four more than this one," and the reasons being like the people that like this one more than four is more of the I would say the I guess there's certain points where it does get like you get a little choked up, where it is actually really good
Yeah.
performances by Harrison Ford, being the reveal of his son at one point, and then the actual ending, kind
Yeah,
of
the
being like
end
a
got me.
very yeah, it was a little tearjerker a little bit. And then for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the argument for that one is it has a lot more action entertainment in it. Like that's what makes it stand out better compared to Dial. And the way you look at it at those, there's no like conflicting opinion. They're both opinions, and it's kind of just like well, which one do you kind of care about more? Do you care about
Yeah.
the action entertainment, or do you care about like kind of like the indie himself kind of feeling about it? And you can kind of see Dial really does a better job in terms of like voicing like a emotional uh feeling for it, even though like Karen Allen's in the other one too and everything else, and she's more active as well. But the other one also still being like, well, I just like action Indiana Jones. I love hearing he punches someone and it's just the great
Yeah. It's like
sound
literally
effect
like
of it.
sack.
Yeah, it's so freaking good. So for me, I'm not sure which one like I like more yet. I'm not honestly not too sure because those are the things where I go, yeah, this one is more action entertainment. This one is more
Mhm.
satisfying in terms of like the indie emotion.
I think for
Uh,
me, I'll let you finish.
okay, thanks. Uh, and it's like I never hated Kingdom of the Crystal Skull since the beginning. I always enjoyed it. I always had my issues with it. Specifically, I'd say the most part, the number one being the monkeys, the number two being like
Really, because that's not even on my list.
yeah, it was like the weird monkey vine swing, the aliens, and then like yeah, I know you're the fridge boy, but like
Yeah.
those three things are like too much a little bit, but I enjoyed the ants. I actually loved the
No,
ants
that was a
thing.
cool scene.
Yeah. And then everything else, like it was fun. It was so there's so much action and adventure. So I honestly think like I think I still like Kingdom more because it is still Indiana Jones being a full-on like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. This one's still being like it's fantastic, but I mean it's not fantastic, obviously, but it's still just yeah, it's just that closure we need. This one was the necessary closure. The other one was just kind of like the last fulfillment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I personally would say I'd like Dial of Destiny more than Crystal Skull. Like I mentioned, I softened on Crystal Skull over the years, where like at this point it's really just like the Indy surviving a nuclear explosion in a fridge in the beginning of the movie is so unbelievable that it takes me out of the rest of the almost the rest of the movie, because I'm just like, he should be dead. And then the very last thing is just I couldn't understand the 13 crystal skeletons forming into back into one living skeleton. Like it was so strange and confusing, that
That was the
I
weirdest. No one's done that with an alien before, where they're like, "Is
yeah,
that 13 aliens or is it one alien or
like
whatever aliens
that's the thing.
called?"
Like it is unique and interesting. It's just I'm left with so many questions that again it just takes me out of the movie. So the beginning of the movie is uh takes me out of it, and the end of the movie takes me out of it. But like the rest of the movie is pretty entertaining. I'll give it that. I haven't liked Shia LaBeouf as much. I think he's a great character. But
Yeah, he actually was. Yeah,
yeah.
it's just the only
But
issue is he was Shia LaBeouf.
yeah. But in Dial of Destiny, there was no single scene that I like hated or that took me out of the movie. Nothing was like as spectacular as some of the scenes from the original movies, but like there was no single thing that I hated seeing in this movie. So I
Yeah,
think that's why overall I think it's more enjoyable, and it's also just like slightly more believable. I mean, I love the whole ancient aliens conspiracy theory or whatever. So you would think that Crystal Skull would play into me like my personal interests, but I just think they did it in a weird way. And like when we get to the ending, like there's a specific reason why the end of this movie I thought was like such a perfect thing for Indy to experience.
yeah. So like, I'm trying to think like what do I want to say next? I guess. Yeah, we'll just get it out of the way for the visual effects. Like the whole prologue was fun. It was great to just kind of get like a young Indy one last time.
Hmm.
And even though like it wasn't it wasn't even like a fraction as good as the real young version of like Harrison Ford in the original trilogy and stuff. You look at this and like we said, like it's a guy with a mask on that's like a Harrison Ford mask, and then they basically heavily do the visual effects like they did for the Star Wars movies and stuff like young Luke, young Leia, Grand Moff Tarkin, that kind of thing. And we've seen kind of the stages it's all taken. Like we look at Rogue One, you had Grand Moff Tarkin kind of little fucking uneasy where you're like, this dude's kind of twitching. And unanimously, everyone's pretty much said it would have been better if we just see this silhouette and the reflection, or like his face in the reflection. That's good enough for us. But you could tell it wasn't there yet. Leia,
Yeah,
she
they
barely
they got a little
moved.
overconfident and we're like, no, 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 we got this. It's like,
Yeah. But then you saw they
I
put
don't
more
know.
work into Leia and she looks really good. But then the minute she moves her mouth, you're like, ah, jeez, oh
Yeah,
god, I
it's
gotta
like
just get it out,
there's
get it
just
done.
something off.
Yeah. And then
The epitome of Uncanny Valley.
like Rise of Skywalker, it's a little bit better, but it's also so much more brief. It feels like when it has like, and
Yeah,
it's darker when you have like young Leia and Luke. To then Mandalorian, we have young Luke again, and you could tell like young Luke is probably the best. Like in Mandalorian, is the best they've come to at that point.
yeah,
Uh, just still being like they can't move much. Like it's very much Luke's just kind of like the whole time he's moving, cloak down, cloak up. I am Luke. Hello, it
yeah.
is me. And this one, it's straight up just action. They put it during all of the action. And this is the best they've done so far, for sure,
It's
because
almost
he's actually
flawless.
moving. Yeah.
Like
But
there's just like a few moments where like the shadows don't look quite right for
yeah,
whatever reason, but it's just like nitpicking,
yeah.
basically.
And like I said, I don't want a full movie based on this kind of thing. It's fine if they include it like this every now and again, but also the opportunities for it are diminishing pretty fast because we don't really. It's like now Indiana Jones is done. We don't need a young Harrison Ford anymore. You guys don't need to do that with Star Wars. I guess they still can pull it off in certain areas because, like, if they're exploring the pre Episode 7 stuff, like you have chances for like Luke, Leia. I don't know if they'd ever want to do Han and Harrison Ford. Like, you want to make me come back, you sons of bitches. Give me the money. Um,
Just let
it's
me die.
God, Chewie, punch it. It's we don't really know. Uh, but I think that it's cool and everything, but it's not necessary at the same time.
Yeah.
And even through this too, it's like he looks the best we've seen from Disney's like young person visual effects. You still have the current Harrison Ford voicing him, and I can easily flash back into my head
Yeah.
and listen to what he sounded like in the older movies versus what he sounds like now, and it is night and day different. Like young Harrison Ford voice
I
versus
think that
old.
might be another reason why it was like an uncanny valley thing to me, where it's like I could tell there was just like a few things that felt off, and definitely
Yeah,
the voice was one of them.
yeah. It just sounds like old Harrison Ford in young body. They couldn't really change that too much, so that was like it's like I was enjoying it, but it was still like it was visibly in my head during the whole the whole prologue. Like I could feel it think I kept thinking about it. Like it had me taken out of it. I'd say probably like 30%
Mm,
of like while I was watching it and stuff. So there's just that kind of feeling, I guess. Needless to say, like I said, like kind of what you talked about of do we want this in the future? Do we want like a young Indiana like this? I definitely don't. I think we can close the book on Harrison Ford. We could say that right
same.
now. Yeah. Now, going into the plot of this movie and I guess like the characters really, we only have two characters and a group to talk about really. Like there's the main one, Helena, who
Yeah.
aka Wombat, played
Yeah.
by
I
Phoebe
love that they give her
Waller-Bridge.
like a sidekick nickname. They only mention it like once or twice.
Yeah. Well,
Ugh.
yeah, pretty much. She is interesting, and I get what they were trying to do because it's the whole thing of she's the daughter of what was his name?
Oh yeah.
Basil.
Yeah.
Basil Shaw. He's played by what's his name? Toby Jones, which some of you guys might know as Arnim Zola from the Captain America movies. He was like
Right.
the little Nazi guy who's like, yeah. And he becomes a computer in Winter Soldier, which was fucking weird.
Yeah.
But also actually really cool because the Winter Soldier is like one of the few Marvel movies. It's like, hey, this feels like a movie, like a film that's not like just fucking schlock. But
Yeah, I find
like,
it interesting that they were able to make a version of the Zola robot that wasn't just literally a television, like a Teletubby screen stomach with like a camera head. Like
yeah,
it's
God,
they actually
well,
made it
Modog,
cool.
yeah. So she's the daughter of Shaw, which Shaw is cool in the flashback stuff, like during the prologue. He's an enjoyable character. It's just like another one of Indy's companions as we go through it, just like
Yeah,
the
and he
countless
just
companions he has.
went nuts trying to solve this one ancient mystery of this supposed time travel device made by Archimedes, maybe.
Yeah. And Helena being like, oh, this is the daughter of this guy. And she puts up a front like, I'm becoming an archaeologist. And it's like all a lie. She's really just
Yeah,
like, because
I'm following in my dad's footsteps.
her father and Indy kind of both screwed her over as a kid, where Indy could have taken more care of her and he just didn't. So he just kind of
Yeah.
forsaken her and left her to basically fend for herself.
Well,
And
I
the
guess he
fact
was
that,
like, "Oh, your crazy dad will take care of you." And it's like, no, that didn't
no,
work out.
even then, after like he passed, it was the whole thing of like, still, she wasn't helping her out really.
Yeah,
And Basil still too, yeah, it was crazy. So he couldn't really do anything for her. So she had to do stuff on her own and was like, I like money because that helps me survive, kind of thing. And
yeah,
that's all she knew really, even though like she is big on archaeology, but not for the reasons that Indy is.
yeah. It's like she took all the skills that her father and Indy taught her, and instead of using it to find artifacts to put in museums, she's just like, "I'll sell it to the highest bidder."
Yeah,
I don't care what happens to it as long as I find something cool and I make my money.
she's which is interesting because she is literally the type of people that Indy's basically fought his whole
Yeah.
life practically. Going up against like even like Temple of Doom is a perfect example, like paying the highest bidder for like that kind of thing. And
Even Last Crusade starts off with like the Cross of Coronado. It's like this belongs in a museum.
yeah, which oh my god, so do you.
Yeah.
God, it's such a good line. And he's saying that when he's back when he's still like youngish too at that point. That's the funniest thing. And then you look at now and we're like, the museum can't keep him in. He keeps breaking out. Quite literally, because he works in like a college museum type thing,
I
I
love it
guess.
his retirement party. The only thing he has to say is like, thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah, God. Uh, but Helena is really fun. She has more, I guess, like energy, and is a semi fighter type person. Like you see her
Yeah.
fight, and she can like hold her own, but she's not like indie level of just like, yeah, I could take these guys down. Even though you go throughout the movies, like Indy's not a high end like fighter. He gets
Yeah.
captured in
He could
like
drive a tuk-tuk really good though.
yeah. But he gets captured in like every movie, no matter what, or he has to like run away depending on the situation. So it's
Oh
very
yeah.
like he they remind you like, this character is mortal. Like it's not like
Dude,
your
I
name.
too love that towards the end of the movie, they're like climbing the cave and she's just like, come on, what's wrong with you? He's like, I'm old, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And you haven't had to drink the blood of Kali. It's
Yeah,
like,
God, that was
oh, that
great.
nice callback.
You were like, hey, we understood that reference.
Uh,
Just the Steve Rogers, like,
yeah, it's like,
uh,
oh man, yeah, what did that do to him?
yeah. But overall, I thought she was good. She was entertaining. And you do see her like, not, I don't want to say growth, like, it's more of, I guess, change of heart that she has throughout the
Yeah,
movie, which takes a bit of time. It really, I guess, happens around the scuba diving is when it occurs.
yeah,
And that's more of like the hey, we can do this to the by the end it's hey, I'm me again, Indy, we like I care about you kind of thing,
yeah,
versus like the very beginning she's like I'm leaving you here to die and
yeah,
literally locks
literally.
him inside. So you do see like I guess like the three stages of her changing throughout the film, and
Yeah.
you can tell they kind of want to do something with her, in terms of like, is she the passing of the torch kind of
I
thing?
have heard that, and especially with her having like a kid sidekick, people are like, "Oh, is he like the new short round too?" Maybe.
Yeah. Which his name was what was his name? It was also like a funny name. Teddy. Yeah, it was just Teddy.
Yeah,
But
just like constantly stealing shit from people.
yeah, God, that's how they met pretty much. And it sounds honestly very similar to how like her and Short Round met too.
Wait, yeah, didn't he mentioned how he met short round? I forget what it was.
Uh Something about him being an orphan, but I can't
Yeah,
remember what it was either. The thing with this though is she I think is going to be doing something else as well. And I'll talk about it in a second, but would you want to see her, because the thing is
hmm.
they're talking about working on a Indiana Jones Disney Plus series that is like Indiana Jones-esque or like in that world, but not necessarily with Harrison Ford, because we already talked about it. Like he's done, this would be a different character. And do
I'd
you
give it a
think it would
shot.
be her?
I mean, I don't know if I liked her character as much as I ever liked Indiana Jones, but that's like a big ask. So, but I liked her enough that I would definitely give like this character another shot for sure.
Okay. Because now the other thing being like, she could be in that. I personally don't want that, but that's only because I want Ke Kwan to come back
Ooh,
as
yeah, I
short
would like that
round.
much more. That
That
would be
would
yeah.
be the true torch passer. And I think that would be really great. And if they want, they could put Harrison Ford in it as just Indy, but done like after
Yeah,
this
like they
movie.
literally maybe one time in the first season they have to like go to an expert for advice and it's indie.
And it's also just like it's a acknowledgement of just like, hey, I'm happy you're doing this, kid. Like I'm glad you found your own
Yeah.
thing. And he's like, thanks. And it's like that just like that little chat. He doesn't have to do any action. He could just be sitting in a chair talking to him. And that's all we need.
Have like the first line be like, not so short anymore.
Yeah. Oh my God. But it would just also, when you look at how they interact in real life, how excited Kyu Kwan is when he sees
Dude,
him.
it's those are photos are so heartwarming. They it looks like they're both like genuinely happy to see each other after so long.
That's why I say, like, yo, anyone that always disses Temple of Doom, fuck you guys. Like, you guys don't get how heartfelt that movie is, even with like
I
people
got my
getting their
problems with
hearts.
that movie, but again, it's like I can
It's also the
forgive the
most hardcore. There's
problems.
dudes getting their heart pulled
Oh yeah,
out and like
uh-huh.
sacrificed and shit. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. But I really do think he could do it. I think if she wanted to be in it too, she could be a supporting character for him. But it really should be Kehu Kwan, especially for the sheer fact that you guys, if you want the best one, it's gonna be heartfelt having him in it, especially with the emotion he brings to the characters. Like
Yeah,
Phoebe Waller-Bridger is fine, but she's not gonna have the same emotion as Kehu Kwan. Kehu Kwan is just literally walking emotion in the best way possible because he knows how to like siphon it into just like a very good character, as we saw in Everything Everywhere All at Once and
yeah.
Temple of Doom. And the thing too is like he is a very big stunt person. So
Really?
yeah, the whole thing is after like Temple and Goonies, for the most part, the reason he wasn't really an actor, among one of the things is like he was mainly doing a lot of the stunt stuff. He was a stunt
Oh,
coordinator,
I
just
didn't
like
know
working on all
that.
that stuff. He's big on stunts. That's why he was so good in Everything Everywhere. Was
Interesting.
that was just him doing his thing. So
Huh.
have him in this show, holy crap, the amount of choreography they could pull off in it, the amount of stuff he can do, like we're gonna get like high-end indie stuff where it's yeah, that's gonna be the punches, but kicks and everything else, he could really make it his own and make it very action-packed. Like you would have so much fighting. Imagine how fun that would be. Like that'd be
That'd be pretty
crazy
cool.
good. Yeah. So that would be really dope. I think that's the best direction they could possibly take, and it would make the most sense. And we're talking about this, we're talking about Helena, and I think, like I said, she's fine. She's good. I enjoyed her, but if it's between her and Ku Kwan, like it's got to be him. If it wasn't him, it would make sense to be her. There's no one else. The reason there's no one else, probably asking why not Mutt Williams if you haven't watched the movie already. It's kind of impossible because he's dead, and we weren't expecting that. I gotta say. Uh,
Yeah, I was just like, wait, the dude who's like anti-establishment, anti-government, like don't tell me what to do, like he went off to join, like I assume Vietnam and
yeah,
died.
which
Like,
was
damn, what?
well, not what we were expecting when the whole thing, because we knew Shia LaBeouf wasn't going to be in it. Like, it was very like it seemed very unlikely.
Yeah, I thought they
If
just weren't gonna talk about it. I didn't think they
I
were gonna be
thought,
like, his
well,
son is dead. His
I
his
thought
marriage is
because
over.
I wasn't sure how many years later it would be between like
Yeah.
Kingdom and this, because the whole thing is Kingdom is during the '60s, if I recall. I want to say
I
early
mean,
'60s or late '50s, one of the two.
late enough that like Russians were already like kind of if not villain, like a adversary.
Well, we have to also keep in mind, like when you think about it, Raiders is still, I guess, the early time of the Nazis, but also
Yeah.
him and Marion are just hanging around. Like she hasn't, like Mutt's not even born yet, so you have to keep in mind, like he's probably early 20s, late. Like, he's like basically between 19 to 22 in Kingdom.
Yeah.
So that's like if it was 1939 or something.
So he would have been maybe like in his late 30s, early 40s for Vietnam.
I think late because Vietnam was still like it started in the late 60s,
Oh
if I
yeah, I forgot.
recall.
It started like it went on for like a long time.
Yeah. So I know I'm not gonna dive
Yeah,
all
no,
into the
that would be
math,
like a
but
whole history
the point
lesson.
is like he was, yeah, probably like late 20s around the time Vietnam happens, but also uh it's enough time where, this movie's taking place in the 70s at this point. Or wait, no, because they went to the moon, right?
Yeah, like the beginning of the movie
So
was
that's
there's like a parade
1969.
for the Apollo 11 mission going well.
Oh, that's what it was. So it wasn't the moon. Was it the moon?
No, that was the moon.
Okay, so it was 1969. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was 1969 was when we went to the moon. So it's still the 60s. Um, but yeah, so I thought it would be like because I wasn't, like I said, I was the whole reason I'm talking about this
Apollo 11 was 1969.
1969. Yeah. So the whole thing with him being in Vietnam, I was thinking like they could say he's still in school, he's doing something in college or something like that. And then I
Yeah.
realized like, oh, it might
Took
be
his dad's
too,
advice, went back to school.
yeah. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that was too much. It didn't work out because like, who knows how many years it's been versus like when that actually happens and everything else. So it's hard to say. And I think the whole thing was like in Kingdom, the war didn't start yet. I don't think it was like the Red Scare and everything else, but like we're post Korean War. We're not like in
Yeah.
Vietnam yet. So I think he wasn't like, I think he was in the initial start of it probably of like I enlisted. Whereas like eventually, they weren't like, oh, just enlist stuff. It wasn't in the beginning. I don't think they were doing the draft. The draft came after the initial start of the war.
Yeah.
So he was part of the gung ho group, I'm pretty sure. Even though, yes, it is very out of character, but it could be just because like he was put back in line by Indy and he saw like he served in World War II and he
Maybe.
thought maybe this was his thing he could do. And also James Mangold had to do the best he could to make this work in terms of like, well, how do we James Mangold did I'd say like he's the director for this film. I think he did a great job with what there was because it's just like, okay, you have a very old Harrison Ford. You have to basically deal with that. You have Shia LaBeouf being Shia LaBeouf, so we can't necessarily put him in this movie either. How are you going to pull this off? And it's like they pretty much didn't have like sky's the limit kind of thing when making this movie. It was very much like a box where it's like we have to do the best we can with what we have, and
Yeah.
we're very limited on kind of how we can pull anything off, kind of
I just
thing.
feel like it was a weird choice to like undo Indy and Marion getting married at the end of the last movie. And then like the cherry on top of this movie, it was, oh, they get back together again. Everything might be fine. Like, well, then why did you do all that in the first place? It seems like unnecessary, but I don't know.
For which part exactly? Like the
Well, because like so the end of the last
just
movie,
Mutt or like
well, yeah,
them.
just like they didn't have to kill off Mutt or make this whole thing where like Mutt died and it put strain on his marriage and that's why they're not together anymore. And then at the very end of the movie, they're just back together. So like, why manufacture all this stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the movie except for like the one scene where Indy's like, yeah, if I could go through time, I would probably tell my son not to go get himself killed.
Yeah,
And like it just seems like they manufactured all this unnecessary tension. I mean, maybe it was just to have like one more thing of like this is why Indy is like sad and like alone and doesn't want like why he's like so apprehensive about going on another adventure, I guess, because he's just like,
he's done.
yeah, I'm done.
I mean, I get it, and it makes sense. Like it works the way it does. At the same time, too, I feel like we've gotten this cliche before, and it's like, yeah, he's very ladies' manish, and then Kingdom, it's like we finally see him settle down,
Yeah.
and to have this come out after where it's like, oh, they're not together again. It's really like, hey, I feel like I've seen this before. Oh, right. What happens in Uncharted? They get together at the end of the first game,
Yeah.
and then they're apart for the second game, and at the end of the second game, they get together again, and then you see the third game, and they're divorced, and then they get together again at the end, and then
And in four, they're playing Banjo or
Crash Bandicoot,
Crash Bandicoot together.
and then they almost split up in the middle of four, and then get back
Yeah.
together again. So it's just like I think that's always been the most annoying kind of thing. It's just like I guess I could see like it is in a sense realistic depending on that person's personality of like how they work and what they're wrestling with the whole time. But at the same time, as just being a either player or audience person, just a viewer, it kind of does it's like it becomes obnoxious. Even if it's like written for a good reason, it still feels obnoxious because it's just like for fuck's sake, I just want growth. It's like the same thing as like in comics for like Marvel and DC where they reboot something
Yeah.
and they like you're like, oh, finally this character's getting growth. Something's happening where the status quo is changing in a way. I'm not saying like, oh, this new person's taking up the mantle because that could go to shit, and it has. I've watched it
Yeah.
happen. But I'm saying like, oh, the hero gets married. The hero is a kid. They're still the hero, but now something's different. And they'll always be like, yeah, you're right. Hey, so we did New 52, rebooted everything. Fuck it, fuck
Yeah.
everyone. And you're just like,
It just feels like
what
why
the
why
fuck?
go through all that work just to wind up in the same place you were already at?
Yeah, it just it's probably, I think, my least favorite trope, or I guess
Yeah.
my
It just
most
feels
despised trope
unsatisfying.
in any form of media, whether it's games or film or television or
Yeah.
comics. It just is stupid. Which I guess that's the one thing about anime is at least they keep moving forward and then they finish and it's like the one thing they're just like you're like, oh thank God it's done. We don't have to worry about it. Even though they do that still with some character, we're just like, oh, this character's annoying. But
Dude, the amount of
uh
animes where it's just like in this episode, half the characters die out of nowhere and they never come back.
yeah, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Um Yeah, so well actually some though, but others like have so much plot armor it's insane if they're just a
Yeah, for
supporting
sure.
character. Depending on what it is. Um so the other characters being like, Mads Mikkelsen and his little like Nazi followers. And Mads Mikkelsen was fine. He was a good villain. And
I
he,
just thought it was hilarious though. Like one of the first times you see him in the present, I guess, is just like, oh, this dude is like still like 20, 30 years later, however long it's been, just full Nazi still.
yeah.
Like he
He
got the Americans to the moon and he's still like, Hitler didn't or you guys didn't win the war. Hitler lost it. It's like, damn, dude, you're still carrying that flag?
it's funny because like, as a villain, he's not a very emotionally active person. It's very just like straight face the whole time, very like
It's
reserved.
just his whole thing is he's driven to get that time travel device no matter what. And it makes sense that if he believes in the ability to go back and change time, like that, I guess it makes sense that he would keep his Nazi ideals because he's just like, well, no, I mean the Thousand-Year Reich isn't dead; it just isn't still going on in this timeline.
Just
I can
needs the
fix it.
proper reboot. Yeah,
Yeah,
quite literally going back and rebooting. But
yeah,
like, it's funny because I compared again to like Captain America stuff where it's like the Red Skull thing where it's like, Hitler's not
yeah,
he's in the right, but he's not. I could do it better than he
yeah.
can, kind
That
of thing.
I did not see that twist coming. That he's like, why are you going to Munich? Like, oh, because I'm gonna kill Hitler and take his place because he didn't know what he was doing. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. This Nazi wants to kill Hitler.
Yeah. And just be a worse Hitler. Or I guess
Yeah, I
like a more
guess.
successful Hitler, which makes him a worse Hitler.
Yeah,
And the thing too is it's always interesting seeing that kind of thing where there's a guy that's not the like head of the big bad organization going after a thing that could change everything. And it's kind of like you look at them and you're like, why aren't you taking this power for yourself kind of thing? And that's what I was thinking the whole time, the way he's doing it. And then once he says, like, yeah, I could do like a better job, I'm like, there we go. I was waiting for him to do that kind of thing. Because I'm
yeah.
like, why would you go through all this trouble to be like, Hitler, I did this for you? I'd be
It
like,
also makes sense because, like I said, one of the first things he says in the present is Hitler lost the war, not we lost the war.
no, it's
So
not. We didn't win. Yeah, it's like you guys didn't win the war. Hitler
yeah,
lost it because he
yeah. So
wasn't
him
good enough.
specifically saying like Hitler lost it was definitely like a hint that he doesn't really love Hitler like he maybe should as a Nazi, but
Yeah,
interesting.
it's like I mean, I know it's probably bad, but it's like the whole thing with like a lot of people running against Trump, and they're like, Trump's not. I'm a better Trump than Trump. It's like
Yeah,
it's that kind of
DeSantis
thing.
is like I'm Trump but young.
I'm like I'm the woke shit. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
um, he was otherwise cool. Like Matt, the thing is I always love Mads Mikkelsen.
yeah.
He's
He's a
such a
great
fun
actor.
actor. He always is, I would say, more or less typecast a lot as a villain in certain things, unless it's like because if I recall, he's Swedish. He is usually like in his stuff, back home, like actual Swedish films, very much like not, I don't think the bad guy necessarily. It's like a lot more
Interesting.
like main character kind of thing. If you look at it, like people, I guess, still sort of half make him villain in Rogue One, even though he's not. He's like the scientist there.
I don't think I wouldn't say he was a villain. He was just forced to do
Yeah.
something bad, but he like you did everything
For
in
some
his
reason, he's
power to
still
give
like
like
I
hope.
forget where I saw, but some things it still labels him as like one of the villains or something. I don't know why. And then like people forget he used to be like one of the good guys. I remember this just because it was one of the like movies I saw when I was a kid on my birthday. The uh Clive Owen King Arthur movie.
He was in
Uh
that.
huh?
He was in that.
He was I think his name was I think Tristan. He was the
Damn.
one with the hawk. Uh
Wow, I do not remember that.
yeah, and
Huh.
he's like
Because
Yeah,
all
I
I
know
remember him
that
in
was
is
Mads
like
Mikkelsen.
Hannibal and Death Stranding. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he was in that, and he was a good guy. He ends up getting killed by the main bad guy, or like the main Viking dude. But he tries to fight him, and then like Arthur sees him get killed, and he's like, "All right, well now I'm gonna fight you. You kill my friend." Um, so yeah, he's been good and stuff. I think there's a recent movie where he actually kills a shit ton of Nazis, which is funny. It's
Hmm.
like a whole thing where it's like you messed with the wrong Swede, and he starts like hunting them and shit. It actually looks really fun. I never saw it though. It's like all these foreign films of his. I want to. It's a whole. It's like going through directors and other actors' filmographies. He's definitely one I've always wanted to check out, just because it's probably a very interesting thing. Like the more like this is what he's looked at in the it is more national light than the American light kind of thing. So otherwise, his character, yeah, it was fun. Not my
Yeah.
favorite Nazi. It feels weird saying that, like specifically. They like for indie stuff, I think like the one I've always the most evil Nazis are still like taught. The one who
The
is
dude with the
like,
burned hand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that fucker. Him and then
He just like looked like the most
he
stereotypical Nazi you could think of.
straight
And
up
just
just
dude, the way how he like menacingly in
hello,
Attack
Fraulein.
Raiders, he just
Yeah,
like pulls apart this like thing and you think he's like
it's a
putting
coat
together,
hanger.
yeah, you think he's like making a torture device. It's a coat hanger. Just put his coat
It's
out.
so good. Even this is funny. Renee Belloc, you know, the main bad guy, like the French
Yeah.
dude, who's not even a Nazi. He's there and he's even nervous too. And he's like, oh,
I so, dude, I love that scene where like Sulla's like his name is Baloche. It's like Belloc? Belloc's here. Like Indy
God.
just like fucking hates that guy.
But him and then the fucking general in Last Crusade, who literally like fights Indy on the tank, and it even has like the
Yeah.
Nazi music. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, like that whole thing. And he's just like, you know, when they're captured, he's like, why? And he keeps smacking him with the glove and shit.
Yeah.
And oh my god, like that dude was straight up just like that's the Nazi you when he falls off the cliff with the tank and you see his face, you're just like, yes,
That's such a great
yes.
shot.
Yeah, so it's like it's funny because I mean I guess I think that's why they're so superior is because they're Nazis you hate and you're just waiting for them to get their face melted off or to fall off a cliff and it's just so satisfying.
Yeah, it's like the only time that Mads Mikkelsen's character really emotes heavily in this movie is when Indy's like, "You're fucking up. You're going through the wrong time
Oh
portal
yeah, and he
because
starts
continental,"
freaking out.
and he's just like, "Shit, maybe he's right.
He was.
Move the plane immediately." He's like, "Too fucking late, man."
It was Continental Drift. He was right about it because
uh,
it's like, oh, did we make it? Oh shit, it's tie rooms. It's the Roman invasion. We've gone to the wrong place. So like, seeing him nervous and then like then also kind of coming to terms when the plane's about to crash, and he's just like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, it's also it's the thing too of he's also old. He too is like an older Nazi kind of guy. Like he's not even a young one. Even then, like when he was the doctor, like he wasn't even like
and he's just like the scientist guy, and he's
yeah,
just like, "Yeah, that spear thing, replica, bullshit. Is not helpful. This hunk of metal thing though, that's a bunch of gears, super important. We
we
need
could
the other
really use
half."
this. Yeah. So a good villain, but also still, like I said, he just also with his age, it just kind of makes him the default like of the five films, like the lesser. Because at least
Yeah.
also Kate Blanchett was fun in four, even though she was ridiculous, like just like a sword twirling
The psychic
communist.
Nazi.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, psychic
psychic
Russian.
Russian. We're so used to we're so used
Yeah.
to fucking Nazis. We're just like, no, that one's Russian. Um,
I love how he's just like the one of the first things that Indy does in that movie is make fun of their accent. It's like, but the sound of how your teeth are sinking into those W's, you sound pretty Russian to me. It's like, damn, what?
and then like one last little thing about it is just like his henchmen are fucking like all more or less American
Yeah, they're just
turned
like,
Nazi.
you're telling me that I could, if I help you out, I could get probably a shit ton of Nazi gold. I'm in.
Probably yeah, they're like gold woman everything, and they're like already like dudes that you can tell are like, you know, they could have the white hoods on, but I think they saw themselves with a higher calling.
Maybe I could see them like part of this deal being like, okay, we're not going back to the present. Like if you come with me, we're staying in the past, but I'll be like the leader of the Reich now, so you
Yeah,
can
they all
get
want
whatever.
power. They like
Yeah.
the because when they all put on the uniforms, except for big guy who
Yeah.
drowns, but like they're like fully set to just go into that world. And you see it's like, well, are they like were they German before? And it's like, no, you look at that dude, he's literally reading a how to speak German book.
Yeah.
Like it's just like trying to learn the language.
I feel
And
bad for
it's
the one like CIA agent that got shot though.
I did, but also I didn't at all because I was like, "This is your fault. You're part of this. Like
Yeah.
you could have not let him do this kind of thing or reported him, but you didn't. So
Well,
good
it's
job."
weird because like she was truly working for the government, just being like, okay, he says he can get this like time travel device for us. I am in charge of making sure he does that. And then like the mission went wrong and she didn't anticipate that like he had turned all his like handlers against like to his side essentially.
Yeah, but also okay, they kill people in the university. She looks at that, points the gun, and goes, "Oh, well, there's bigger things afoot." She could have stopped him there. She
That's true.
didn't. So that's why I'm like, "Oh
That was
well."
also another thing that I didn't understand. Maybe I missed it because I wasn't paying attention or something, but I don't understand how Indy gets blamed for the deaths at the university because like
Because it's still the government there.
oh they just like framed him.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Because I was just like, wait, why would anyone think that he just on his
Bro, it's
retirement day was
America.
just like yeah, nowadays people will be like, yeah, my retirement party is everyone dies.
Yeah, no, it's
Ugh.
just a standard American exercise at this point where it's like, hey, I know you worked everything for us, but fuck you. We're just gonna fuck you over
Yeah.
the first chance we
Here's a
get.
clock.
Yeah.
Oh, let
God.
me just like walk outside and just
Gives
gives
it
it
to a
to some
homeless
random
guy.
person who's like, here,
Yeah,
whatever.
gives here's the goddamn clock. Chewie's not here to give it to you. Yeah, so uh they're fun. You're like ridiculous, just American Nazis, which at the same
Yeah.
time we currently have American Nazis, so it's not a surprise. And
Yep.
other than that, like we have a return briefly for Sala. We have Marion Ravenwood returning too. And I think this is where it really gets like fun. And it's funny because like Sala's like, I can go with you. And he's like, I miss the mountain. I miss the desert. I miss the sea.
Yeah, that was
And that was a good line.
yeah.
I enjoyed that. But it's also like, you're also old. And it's funny because like you guys, that's Gimli. That's like,
I literally did not know that. Like
yeah.
I heard that like yesterday and was like, are you what?
Well, at the same time, when you see Gimli, really, you're saying that's Sala because Indiana Jones came out way before
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, but it's still like he's both of them, and he's always been a fun character and stuff. He's even on like Princess Diaries too and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I always enjoy that actor. And is it John Reese? No, no, it's no, I'm thinking of someone from Monty Python, I think. What's his name? No, yeah, John Reese Davis. I was right. Okay. Oh wait, I almost forgot. You know who else is in this before we get into the like just about them specifically?
Hmm.
Antonio Banderas is in this
Oh yeah.
movie as a Spanish like sailor who was in World War II and he was like a frogman or something. He
Yeah.
was like basically a dude who was like taking out Nazis left and right, it sounds like. And he was just fun to have in it. And then he just dies. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like, they all help Indy and they all die for it. But it's also sort of like half Lena's fault too.
Yeah, I love that scene where like they're getting away and she's like, "Woo, we did it. We got away." And he's like, "My friend just died."
He just got
Like, what the
murdered in front of
hell?
me. And and I'm just like, yeah. And the
Uh,
thing is, like, Indy always like he's we see it once before, I feel like, or I guess twice. The first in Temple of Doom, his buddy that helps him out dies in the beginning, gets shot, and Indy actually like sees like full on just like he lets everything go and just goes to him and is like, oh fuck, like I didn't want you to
yeah.
die. And he's like, that's my last adventure, Indy. And you feel it. And it's like you could tell like he became emotionally compromised, like he cares enough where he'll let everything else fall around him for the his friends, like the people he works with
Yeah.
all the time. And even like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Mac betrays him like two or three times. And at the end, he's like
Yeah.
trying to save him too, there where he's just like, I
It's like,
got you,
"It's
buddy.
okay, Jonesy. I'll be fine."
I'll be fine, Jonesy. He starts screaming as he goes in. And I'm like, I don't think he's fine.
It's like, Jonesy,
Sounds
you idiot! I'm a triple agent.
really.
What?
I just lied about being double. It's so stupid.
It's like there's like three times in that movie where he's like, "No, I'm really working for the Americans. No, I'm really a Russian spy.
That's why,
No, I
dude.
really was working for the Americans."
That's why when Helena calls him Jonesy once, he looks at her like, "Would you just call me?" Because
Yeah,
it really was like the only person that calls him that was Mac. And I know it's like Kingdom wasn't everyone's favorite thing, but the fact that my ears perked up when they said that showed still
yeah,
how much of an imprint that movie did still make, and how much I remembered of it. But yeah, Antonio Banderas is cool having him as Ronaldo, just like a Spanish guy, and it's funny just having him like anytime he's in an adventure movie now, he just dies because he's
yeah,
also like the red herring main villain in Uncharted, proceeds to die, and then in this one too, also proceeds to die, and both times it's like he doesn't really get a good thing. It's like the first time he just kind of gets like got immediately on the plane telling his story, going like, "We're all doing this for my personal blah blah blah," and then like Tati Gabrielle's character just comes in and fucking kills him and goes, "I'm in charge
yeah,
now." This one, it's like he tries to make a move and then just gets like shot twice, and you're just like, fuck, okay, well, no, he gets shot then tries to make a move, kind of being
yeah,
like, I'm not going to be used as leverage for Indy, and then like dies in the
yeah.
process. So god, poor Spaniards though. I like those the Spanish like fishermen guys, they were cool. It always happens though. The one time I think it worked out was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like the ship that's carrying them gets like overtaken by the Nazis, and then as they're leaving, they see Indy snuck up onto the sub, um, and they're like all cheering him on, and you're like, oh cool, they didn't die, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like happy they didn't blow him up, and I'm just like, whoo, because I liked what was his name, Captain remember that dude, the captain who's in charge of you probably okay, fine. You need to rewatch these movies, bro.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, anyway. He was a cool character, but then yeah, back to the we get Sala, we get Marion Ravenwood, and it's at the end, and it's more or less the like, here's the wrapping up. We have the whole gangs here, minus a short round. They're one round short of a person
Yeah.
in this ending here, but you have pretty much the Raiders cast reunited, plus like Helena and Teddy.
Yeah, I
I
did
was
love
like,
Solo. It's just like, let's go get ice cream, kids. And then you
yeah,
just
because
hear him singing
they
in the
look
hallway.
around. Yeah, it's oh my god, that was so funny. It was so good. But I also was half expecting him to stay and everyone else leaves too, and it's just those three. But it was yeah, it was just like okay. And then the fact that they do the reverse, like the reverse where doesn't it hurt kind of thing,
Yeah.
which was kind of cute. But like it was very satisfying having them together again, like especially because they really fuck with you the whole movie before that, and you're like, yo, you guys can't do that, and I was really afraid to be like, yo, she's dead, and I was like, I really hope they didn't, and it's like, no, we're getting divorced, and I'm like, that's worse.
Yeah.
So the minute I'm not gonna lie, the minute she walked through the door, because I'm like praying the whole time, I'm like, please tell me you guys got her in the movie. You guys got her in the movie. Just like when they were making Kingdom, I was really hoping she'd come back because I'm like, there's no way we'd fucking get Willie back. No one wants Willie back. Lady only here because she helped direct her.
Yeah.
No offense, but it was that Family Guy thing is always funny.
Yeah. It's
And then
sadly accurate, probably.
Elsa is kind of dead, even though she was
Yeah.
fun. So it's just
I don't
like
know.
it
Maybe
had.
she got the grail when she fell down in the chasm. She's just living there forever.
She can't. She there was nothing in there to drink. You need to
Oh,
drink.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, yeah, it's just Marion, and the fact that they had her in Kingdom when they're like, she's like Indiana Jones. I was like, yes, yes. And then like in this one, it was the same, but I was just like immediate, just like I choked up for a second. I was just like, oh my god, my heart. So it was very nice. And then like having her and the minute I realized her and Sala were in the same room was so just it was so incredibly satisfying. I was so happy with it, and this is where it, like you could almost say it's like fan servicey, but it was still just like it was the finish. It was the finish they needed, and they did a good job with it because
Yeah.
it's like they're all together. They're going out to get ice cream, and then they're coming right back. Like these people are together till the end, which I was really
Yeah.
happy about. Yeah. How did you feel about the ending there?
I mean, I thought that was nice. That's another reason why I'm just like, please don't make any more like Indiana Jones movies because it felt like such a nice like cap to it. Just leave it at that. Um, I don't know. The main, I guess if we're gonna get towards like how we felt about the ending as a whole, like I mentioned earlier that
Yeah,
there's
because
one
there's only one
scene.
thing to talk about after, which is the
Yeah,
plot
like
of the device and the time travel. But we'll talk about that after.
okay, then yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah,
Nah, I'm just like
so
I'm getting close to when I have to actually like start to leave.
yeah, yeah.
So
So just the main thing is, guys, okay, it's a dial of destiny. It time travels. You're like, oh shit, is that actually gonna work? And it
well, what's
does,
weird is that it doesn't specifically travel. It just points you to where there is going to be a like a rift in time that you
which
can
is
travel
interesting.
through.
It's strange but interesting.
Well, and it made more sense that it's like it's mathematics. Like
Yes,
Archimedes didn't make a device that makes these time portals. He just made a device that can predict them, which makes a lot more sense.
it does. And personally, James knows this. I hate time travel as an idea. I've never liked
Yeah.
it. It's too fucking annoying to me. Back to the Future is my one exception, or one of two. I don't really know. That's why Flash isn't my favorite hero. Um, but like in terms of, I think you appreciated it more then. But like Kingdom, we have aliens.
Yeah.
Raiders is like God, like everything else is like God related or like Indian God related, or Hindu
Like it's in
specifically.
some way mystical.
Yeah, and religious and stuff. These ones are like, it's aliens and it's time travel. And it's just like, okay. And it's funny because we get time travel and we're still kind of just like, yeah, all right. Versus the aliens are just kind of like, well, you guys, it's like the aliens were fine. It's just you guys could have done a better job on the
It's just they
aliens.
went a little bit too crazy. Like it is just like I don't understand how 13 skeletons combine into one living
It didn't
alien.
make any sense.
It
Yeah,
didn't make any
I didn't
sense.
like it.
But the idea of like depending on how certain environmental factors line up, there might be just a rift in time in some place or another. Like that's believable. Like they didn't some dude 2000 years ago didn't make a time travel device. He just figured out that there are windows you can walk through.
yeah,
Like it's not unbelievable.
I thought it was cool though with the fact when they come through, you're looking down and then you're thinking like, oh, it's like the siege of Sicily and stuff. Like it's like the
It was
Allies are
Syracuse.
Syracuse, yeah. But like, I mean, that's in Sicily. But like,
Oh man.
damn you,
Dude, I don't know geology,
geography.
geography.
What kind of
Yeah.
science, guys? For those that don't know, he is a
I'm a
mathematical.
biological scientist.
He is a yeah. He's like he's got the science with like math and everything else. But if it's like the ones with rocks and animals, this dude's goner.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
why.
uh, but like the whole thing of just like you're thinking, oh, it's Allied ships and it's the invasion and shit, and you look and it's like I'm like it's funny because like you're
Those are
getting
Roman
closer and
triremes.
I'm like looking closer and I'm like we're in the BC era. It's not even Christ time yet.
Yeah, dude, those Romans were like super accurate with those ballista shots.
Holy
That was
shit.
nuts.
I love that was the funniest shit. Just like a Nazi gets fucking like hooked, just like oh siege.
Dude, it was so funny to me that they were just like leaning out the door of the plane, just like firing their pistols, and I'm just like, what? What do you think? There's like 1,000 dudes out there. Like, what are you gonna kill them all with your like handguns?
They're gun dude, there's just crazy Americans that want to be Nazis. What you expect, you know?
They just
Um
immediately start shooting. It's like, why?
and yeah, so it is just ridiculous. And then the fact that I think the one dude who just is literally like having the ride of his life of what the fuck is happening with my life is this Italian pilot that just is asleep in
He
the
just wakes up
plane,
in the back and he's
wakes
just like,
up and
what the
he's like,
fuck?
what's happening? Why are you flying this plane, child? And then goes through portal and goes, why is there fucking ancient fucking people around?
Yeah.
It was so ridiculous. Poor dude. He's probably like drinking is like insanely after that. But
No one
I,
would ever believe him.
yeah, I thought it was done well though. It was funny. It was interesting. Especially just like there's a Roman dude that you think is going to become another bad guy, and
It's so
he
weird
just
that it's just like
immediately gets
one
shot by
random
arrows.
Roman dude who's just like, I'm going to kill these dragon people or
Yeah,
whatever.
he was supposed to be one of the commanders. That's why, like one of the invasion commanders, at
I
least of that
guess.
ship, of that group of soldiers. And then you have like, what's his face? Archimedes shows up there, and you do have
I
that
like that
like,
he's like building the Antimethea or whatever. Like
yeah.
at yeah.
And it's like, how do you get the watch? You travel? And it's like, no, fucking Uh,
Yeah, I thought I liked that misdirect that is like, oh, he used the device to see through time and he built his own watch. Like, nah, he found that watch.
Found it from this actual situation that we're in right
Yeah.
now, which
Like
like
my
Dr.
only
Voller's watch, pretty much.
my only complaint with that is that like they tried to do this thing where it was always a closed loop thing where like the device was always going to lead Indy and everyone to that specific time because Archimedes was trying to get help for Syracuse or whatever. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense because I guess it could have been any time like if the device found a time portal and they went through it, it could have just gone to anywhere. It was interesting that it happened to go there, but I just thought that was weird that it's like, oh, this was always how it was supposed to be.
You go
Because,
through it and there's
but
fucking dinosaurs.
yeah,
Oh
no,
no.
and that's the thing. I think it would have been much more interesting if they went through a few time portals. Like they went through the first one and it's like clearly the wrong time. They're like, oh shit, I gotta find another portal real quick or whatever. But that might have been like a little bit too much.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it would have been
Uh,
because it would have turned. It could have still been like oh shit, but it could have also instead of just been more potential like unnecessary comedy that they could have had, or it could have
yeah.
been looked perceived as comedy, which
I just
would
think it would have been interesting just to have Indy see like a bunch of different periods of time that he's just like, oh my God,
medieval
we're in
Sicily and
like
stuff,
this, yeah, and he's just
and
like
they're like
calling out everywhere because he's studied it all, and that's the
each
main
century
reason.
they're like dragon.
Yeah, and that's the main reason that would be so funny if they're the reason why there even is a myth for about dragons in the
There's
first
like a Da
place.
Vinci, like Da Vinci's taking because Da Vinci's not he's in like northern Italy, but he's like just down there for a little bit
Yeah,
and he looks up. "Ooh."
yeah, they go to like the Mayan civilization. They're like Quetzalcoatl.
Well,
Is
the
that
thing is,
Aztec?
it's no, it's well, okay.
That was mine.
Quetzalcoatl's
Okay.
no, it's Aztec, but you
Oh,
said
okay.
mine first, and I was like, well, okay, yeah, no, no, well, no, it wouldn't make any sense because they're over Sicily. It's supposed to
Yeah, I'm
be
just saying, like maybe.
different eras of Sicily. Maybe that's about all you can do.
So were those windows just through time, not space then?
It was time, but you're in the same space.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Then yeah, that would have
yeah.
made less sense.
How the
Um,
fuck did we get to the Americas? Yeah, that would be weird. But
but no,
the
I
last,
just I liked it's almost the same exact feeling that I get from Jurassic Park 1 when Dr. Grant gets to see dinosaurs for the first time and he
mm,
like never thought he would ever
yeah,
witness this with his own
after the
eyes.
crash, yeah.
And like I was like, I can't imagine that kind of feeling of a paleontologist seeing like something he studied his entire life that he never thought he would get to see. And Indy got to have the same experience where he's just like, I'm literally witnessing history. Like there was a scene earlier in the movie where he's just like, yeah, we have all these theories that Archimedes built all these cool things, like basically giant sun reflectors to burn Roman ships and stuff, but there's no evidence of it, so we can't prove it. So
Yeah,
that's not scientific unless we can prove it. And he literally sees it happening, and he's just like, "Oh my God, I'm literally witnessing history with my own two eyes." And I that would be a dream come true for someone like Indiana Jones.
yeah. So, I mean, I think I'd have a good time with it too. But
Yeah,
yeah. Oh god. Quick, stop the Spanish from invading United States.
yeah,
um, but like, yeah, it was really cool. And then of course you have that last emotional point where it is like is he gonna stay here? Is he gonna die? That kind of thing. Because he gets shot pretty not at the heart, but pretty close.
yeah.
Um,
I was surprised he didn't die. I
yeah.
thought that's where they were
Yeah,
going.
they were it was either die or get stuck in the past, and I'm like, don't do it either of those. I don't want either of those. And then she knocks him out, and I'm like, thank God. I straight up was like, thank God. Like I don't want him to deal with this shit. So it was a weird transition because it's like you're in the past. Indy gets knocked out with this potential like life ending thing, and then just wakes up in New York or
Yeah,
something.
someone
And you're
pointed
like,
it
oh,
out. It's
okay.
like, yeah, he would have been knocked out for like a week because they were in Sicily and they would have had to get him medical
Well, it
help
was
and fly him all the way back to his apartment.
yeah. I mean, the thing was too, it wasn't just like knocked out from the punch. He was knocked out also because like
Yeah,
that
he
wound.
definitely lost a lot of blood too.
Yeah, so he was pretty unconscious from that, and then like probably whatever they gave him in the hospital while they were fixing him up and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but overall, yeah, it's like either for you it sounds like it's number four. For me, it's probably number five. But still, like I don't think there's such a thing as a bad Indiana Jones movie, and I think the way I see it, all of these are adventures. Some adventures are more pivotal or iconic or more meaningful than others. For me, but like the Indiana Jones adventures that I find just like truly astounding are like Raiders and Last Crusade, who always are kind of like teeter-tottering is what my favorite thing is. Because honestly, I always say like Raiders is probably my favorite film of all time. And like the other ones are like Temple of Doom is still an incredibly fun adventure, but it's not like at the same level. And I think like, yeah, throughout, you have
Yeah.
young Indiana Jones too with all these different things that happen, and they're all fun, but each one's like, some are better and worse, but I don't think any are terrible, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I think I would definitely put Raiders as my number one. Then yeah,
Last
Last
Crusade,
Crusade, Temple of Doom,
Dial.
Dial, and then Temple. No,
Okay.
Kingdom.
Kingdom. Yeah. I think we're pretty much the same, just 4 or 5 switch. That's about it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's really everything there is to talk about this movie.
Yeah. Overall,
Uh,
I thought it was a lot better than I expected.
I think compared to like others, like guys, The Flash, I think is already apparently like in theaters, but
Yeah.
before
Oh my God.
Oppenheimer and Barbie come out and you want to watch a movie, go watch this. Like, actually, okay,
It's
go watch
it's
Asteroid
worth a
City or
watch.
watch this. Like, those
Yeah.
are the two movies I'd say to go watch for sure. Otherwise, wait for the others. But I think it's worth seeing in a theater just to kind of give Harrison Ford that last like hurrah, if anything. You'll still get some entertainment out of it. But I think that's everything, guys. That has been Sutro Side Talk. You can email us at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Send us any comments, questions, feedback. We can talk about it on the show afterwards if you do. Follow us on social media, even though, like I said, we're not as active. Sutro Side Talk, all one word: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And of course, if you guys really want to help us out, though, subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to or watching. If it's Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. If it's Spotify, please rate us. And if it's YouTube, like, subscribe and all that stuff. And then, of course, if you can share it to other people, that would be the most helpful thing possible. It is definitely just word of mouth. Tell people about the show. Otherwise, you could follow James on Twitter at InvaderJim124. You could follow me on Twitter at GoGoComzilla. Like I said, once again, there might be weeks where we miss something. Episodes might be shorter, less topics kind of thing, but also there's something we want to do that's bigger in the long run. And it just depends on how the other stuff that's being prioritized over this goes for the most part. Until next time, though, see y'all later.
Thanks for listening.